The last commander died on a world called Korra. It was a cold planet, covered in ice and snow. The Vec had built their final stronghold here, deep beneath the frozen surface. They thought the ice would protect them. They thought the cold would slow down their hunters. They thought wrong. Taiho found the entrance. Hana cracked their communications. Do-hyun broke through their defenses. The three enforcers moved through the underground tunnels like ghosts, leaving death behind them. The final commander was the largest Vec they had ever seen. It stood in the center of a massive chamber, surrounded by its last guards. It had watched its entire network fall apart. It had felt each commander die, one by one. Now it was alone. The last mind of a dying swarm died. It tried to fight. It tried to call for help. But there was no help coming. The other Vec were scattered, confused, leaderless. They ran in circles without purpose. They attacked each other without reason. The network was broken beyond repair. Taiho stepped out of the shadows. "You are the last one." The commander turned to face him. Its eyes were filled with something the Vec had never known before. Terror. "What are you?" it asked. The words came out in clicks and chemicals, but Hana had taught them enough to understand. "We are enforcers," Taiho said. "We are from Earth." "Earth," the commander repeated. "A small planet, weak, insignificant. How did you do this? How did three of you destroy our entire swarm?" Do-hyun stepped forward. His hands were covered in the blood of 100 Vec. "You made a mistake. You thought numbers would save you. You thought we would fight like the coalition, standing in lines, following rules, waiting for you to attack." Hana appeared on the other side of the chamber. "You did not understand what you were facing. The coalition are builders. They create civilizations. They expand. They grow. But humans are different. We evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill us. Predators, disease, weather, each other. We are not builders," Taiho said. "We are survivors. And when we need to survive, we become hunters. We find threats. We track them. We eliminate them. It is what we do. It is what we have always done." The commander looked at the three humans standing before it. Such small creatures. Such fragile bodies. But in their eyes, it saw something that made its entire being tremble. It saw the truth. These were not soldiers. These were apex predators, the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. And it had invited them into its home. "The swarm will return," the commander said. Its voice was weak, desperate. "Others will come. You cannot kill all of us." "Maybe," Taiho said. "But we killed you. And that is enough." His knife flashed in the dim light. The last commander fell. The war was over. The celebration on the coalition command ship lasted for days. Aliens from dozens of worlds gathered to honor the heroes who had saved them. There was music and feasting and speeches that went on for hours. Everyone wanted to meet the humans. Everyone wanted to thank them, but the enforcers did not celebrate. Do-hyun stood alone near a window, watching the stars. Hana sat in a corner, reading through reports of the aftermath. Taiho was nowhere to be seen. He had disappeared somewhere, as he always did when there were too many people around. Yuna found Do-hyun first. "You should join the celebration," she said. "You earned it." Do-hyun shook his head. "Celebrations are not for us. We did a job. The job is done. Now we move on." "Move on to what?" "Whatever comes next." He turned to look at her. "There is always something next. Another threat. Another mission. Another problem that needs to be solved." Yuna nodded. She understood. This was how enforcers lived. They did not rest. They did not retire. They kept moving, kept working, until their bodies could not move anymore. "Earth needs you back," she said. "There are situations developing, new threats." "I know," Do-hyun said. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow." He nodded once and turned back to the window. Before they left, Novan asked to speak with Yuna one more time. They met in a small room, away from the celebrations. The alien looked different now. The fear was gone from his eyes. But something else had taken its place: respect, and maybe a little bit of fear of a different kind. "I want to understand," Novan said. "I have studied humans for years. I thought I knew what you were. Builders, like us. Explorers, scientists. But you're enforcers. They are something else entirely." "Yes," Yuna said. "They are." "Where do they come from? How do you create such beings?" Yuna thought about the question for a long moment. "They are not created. They are chosen. For millions of humans, only a few have what it takes to become enforcers. They must be strong, but not just in body. They must be intelligent, but not just in mind. They must be willing to do what others cannot, to go places others fear, to face enemies that would break anyone else. But why? Why would anyone choose such a life?" "Because someone must," Yuna said simply. "On Earth, we learned long ago that there are threats that cannot be stopped by armies, criminals who cannot be caught by police, monsters who cannot be reasoned with. The enforcers exist to handle these threats, to remove them quietly and completely." Novan leaned back in his chair. "The Coalition has never had anything like them. We have soldiers, we have guards, we have peacekeepers, but nothing like enforcers. That is because you have never needed them. Your worlds have been peaceful for thousands of years. You forgot what it means to fight for survival. You forgot what predators look like." Yuna stood up and walked to the door. "Now, you know. And if you are smart, you will remember. Will you help us again? If another threat arises." Yuna paused at the door. "Perhaps, but remember what you asked for. You wanted soldiers. People who follow orders and stand in lines. We sent you enforcers instead. They do not follow orders. They do not stand in lines. They hunt. They kill. They remove problems. That is all they do." She turned to face him one last time. "Be careful what you ask for, High Commander. Be very careful." The shuttle left the command ship the next morning. Yuna sat in the pilot's seat, guiding them back toward Earth. Behind her, the three enforcers sat in silence. The celebration was over. The mission was complete, but none of them seemed happy. "What is next?" Hana asked. "A situation in South America," Yuna said. "A criminal network we have been tracking for months. They have hostages." Taiho nodded. "How many targets?" 47. "When do we start?" "As soon as we land." Dahyun cracked his knuckles. "Good. I was getting bored." The shuttle flew through the darkness of space, carrying its passengers home. Behind them, the Coalition watched them go. 50 species, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. They had fought the Vec for 50 years and lost. 3 humans had ended the war in weeks. The galaxy would never forget what it had witnessed. They would tell stories about the enforcers for generations. The 3 hunters from the small blue planet who brought an empire to its knees. And somewhere, in the halls of the Coalition command ship, a conversation was happening. Leaders from different worlds gathered in secret, discussing what they had learned. "They are dangerous," one said. "More dangerous than the Vec." "They are allies," another argued. "They saved us, for now. But what happens when they decide we are the threat? What happens when they hunt us?" The room fell silent. No one had an answer. Back on Earth, the enforcers landed and disappeared into the night. No one greeted them. No one knew they had returned. They were ghosts, moving through the shadows, doing the work that no one else could do. The galaxy had asked for soldiers. Earth had sent something different, something better, something far more terrifying. They had sent enforcers, and now the universe knew the truth about the small blue planet and the creatures who lived there. They were not just builders. They were not just explorers. They were hunters. The most dangerous hunters in existence, and they were always watching. Always ready. Always hunting. The end. News of Veros Prime spread through the coalition like fire. 3 humans had broken the Vek advance in a single night. 3 humans had killed a Vek commander. 3 humans had done the impossible. Some did not believe it. They called it luck. They called it an accident. They said the Vek had made a mistake. But then the enforcers moved to the next planet. And the next. And the next. Each time, the same thing happened. They arrived. They hunted. They killed. They left. The Vek began to change. For the first time in their history, they felt something new. They felt fear. On a world called Tyrus IV, Hana sat alone in a dark room. Screens surrounded her. Each screen showed a different piece of information. Vek movement patterns, communication frequencies, resource locations. She studied them all, looking for connections that others could not see. Diane stood guard at the door. How long are you going to stare at those screens? Until I find what I'm looking for, Hana said. She did not look away from the data. And what is that? The next target. Hana pointed at one of the screens. The Vek do not think like individuals. They think like a network. Each commander is connected to others. Kill one, and the network adjusts. But if we kill them in the right order, the whole thing falls apart, Doyun finished. Exactly. Hana smiled. It was a cold smile. I have been mapping their command structure. There are 12 major commanders left. If we eliminate them in a specific sequence, the network cannot adjust fast enough. It will collapse completely. 12 targets, Dohyun said. How long will that take? 2 weeks. Maybe less. Taiho appeared from the shadows. He had been there the whole time, watching and listening. Then we should start now. The hunt began. The first commander was on a moon called Nexus. It hid deep underground, surrounded by millions of soldiers. The coalition said it was impossible to reach. They said any attack would fail. They said the enforcers should wait for reinforcements. Taiho went alone. He did not fight his way through the Vek. He walked through them. He moved so quietly that they did not know he was there. He found paths that did not exist. He used the shadows like a second skin. By the time he reached the commander, it did not even know it was being hunted. The kill was quick. 1 cut, 1 body, 1 less leader. The second commander was on a ship. A massive vessel that controlled Vek forces across an entire sector. It never landed. It stayed in space, protected by a fleet of smaller ships. Hana took this one. She did not need to board the ship. She did not need to fight anyone. She simply studied their communications until she understood how they worked. Then she sent false orders. She made the Vek ships attack each other. She created confusion and chaos. When the fleet was busy fighting itself, she slipped onto the command ship alone. The commander tried to run. Hana caught it in a corridor. She did not use weapons. She used words. She had learned enough of their chemical language to speak to it. She told it exactly what was happening. She told it that its soldiers were dying because of its failure. She told it that there was no escape. The creature broke. It gave her information, names, locations, weaknesses. Then Hana killed it quickly because she had promised she would. The third commander was the hardest. It had learned from the others. It had changed its patterns. It no longer stayed in one place. It moved constantly, surrounded by guards at all times. It trusted no one. Dohyun went after this one. He did not hide. He did not sneak. He walked straight toward the Vek forces and let them see him. They attacked with everything they had. Hundreds of soldiers swarmed toward him, claws raised, ready to tear him apart. Do-hyun stood his ground. He was not fast like Tae-ho. He was not smart like Hannah. But he was strong. Stronger than anything the Vec had ever faced. Their claws broke against his arms. Their bodies shattered against his fists. He walked through them like they were made of paper. The commander watched from behind its guards. It saw this single human destroy hundreds of its soldiers without slowing down. For the first time, it understood what fear truly felt like. It tried to run. But there was nowhere to go. Do-hyun reached it in seconds. "You should have stayed hidden," Do-hyun said. Then he ended it. Word spread through the Vec network. Something was hunting them. Something they could not stop. 3 creatures from a small blue planet were tearing their command structure apart. The Vec began to retreat. For the first time in their history, they pulled back from planets they had conquered. They abandoned positions they had held for years. They were not thinking about expansion anymore. They were thinking about survival. On the Coalition command ship, Novan watched the reports come in. His hands trembled as he read them. 6 commanders killed in 10 days. The Vec advance had completely stopped. Their network was falling apart. Yuna stood beside him, calm as always. "This is impossible," Novan said. "They are just 3 people." "How are they doing this?" "They are not just 3 people," Yuna said. "They are enforcers. This is what they do. But the Vec are millions, millions. How can 3 individuals fight against such numbers?" Yuna looked at the map. She watched the red dots retreat across the display. You do not fight a swarm by attacking the swarm. You fight it by removing the mind that controls it. Take away the leaders, and the swarm becomes chaos. But how did they know? How did they understand the Vec so quickly? Because they have been doing this their whole lives. On Earth, we face threats every day. Criminals, terrorists, organizations that want to destroy us. The enforcers are trained to find the center of any threat and remove it. It does not matter if the threat is human or alien. The principle is the same. Novan sat down heavily. He looked old and tired. We've been fighting the Vec for 50 years. We have lost 12 worlds. Hundreds of millions of lives. And you are telling me that 3 humans might end this war in weeks. Yes, Yuna said simply. That is exactly what I am telling you. On Tyrus 4, the enforcers prepared for the next mission. 7 commanders remained. 7 more targets. 7 more deaths. Tae-ho cleaned his knife. Hannah studied her screens. Do-hyun stretched his arms and waited. None of them celebrated their victories. None of them felt proud of what they had done. They were not warriors seeking glory. They were not heroes looking for fame. They were enforcers. They had a job to do. They would do it until it was finished. The 7th commander is on Nexus Prime, Hannah said. It is trying to gather the remaining forces. To create a defense. Then we do not let it, Tae-ho said. We hit it before it can organize. Do-hyun stood up. When do we leave? Now. Hannah said. They moved out into the night. Somewhere in the darkness, a Vec commander waited. It thought it was safe. It thought it was protected. It thought wrong. The hunt continued. And the galaxy watched in silence as 3 humans from a small blue planet brought an empire to its knees. The Vec had conquered 12 worlds. They had destroyed civilizations that were thousands of years old. But they had never faced anything like this. They had never faced enforcers, and now they were paying the price. The Coalition ship was enormous. It floated in orbit above a dying planet, surrounded by hundreds of smaller vessels. Yuna stood at the window of their transport and watched it grow larger as they approached. She had seen many things in her life, but nothing like this. That is the command ship, she said. The Coalition leaders are waiting for us. Do-hyun stood behind her, arms crossed. It looks expensive. Probably falls apart when you push it too hard. Hannah sat in a corner, reading through data on a small tablet. The coalition species are varied. Over 40 different races. They have different cultures, different languages, different bodies. But they all share one thing. What is that? Yuna asked. They are all afraid, Hannah said. I can see it in their communications. Their messages are full of panic. They do not know how to handle the Vec. They have never faced a predator species before. Taiho sat alone in the back, sharpening his knife again. It was a habit. His hands always needed something to do. They are prey, he said quietly. They have built a society of prey animals. When a real hunter appears, they do not know how to respond. The transport docked with the command ship. The doors opened, and Yuna led her team out into a wide hallway. The walls were smooth and white. The lights were soft and gentle. Everything looked clean and perfect. Too perfect. A group of aliens waited for them. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. They wore flowing robes of silver and gold. Their movements were graceful and careful. They looked like they had never been in a fight in their lives. One of them stepped forward. He was the tallest of the group. Welcome, humans. I am called Novan. I am the High Commander of the Coalition Defense Force. We are honored by your presence. Yuna bowed her head slightly. Thank you for receiving us. I am Commander Yuna. These are my team members. Do-hyun, Hana, Taiho. Novan looked at them with his large eyes. Confusion passed across his face. Forgive me, Commander. We expected more. Your message said you were sending your best warriors. But there are only 4 of you. 3, Yuna corrected. I am here to observe and coordinate. These 3 are the ones who will fight. The aliens exchanged glances. Their confusion grew deeper. 3 warriors, Novan said slowly. Against the Vec swarm. Against millions of enemies. 3 enforcers, Do-hyun said. His voice was flat and calm. There is a difference. Novan did not seem to understand, but he nodded politely. Of course. Please, come with me. We will show you the situation. They followed the aliens through the ship. Every room they passed was filled with soldiers. Coalition troops in bright armor, carrying long rifles, standing in perfect lines. They looked impressive. They looked powerful. They looked useless. Taeho watched them with cold eyes. They stand too close together, he said quietly to Hana. One explosive would kill 20 of them. Their formation is designed for show, not combat, Hana agreed. They have never fought a real enemy. They entered a large command center. Screens covered every wall, showing images of planets and ships and troop movements. In the center of the room was a holographic map of the current battlefield. A planet called Veros Prime hung in the display, surrounded by red dots. The Vec. This is Veros Prime, Novan explained. 3 days ago, the Vec swarm attacked. They landed on the surface and began consuming everything. We have sent 40,000 soldiers to stop them. We have lost 32,000. Yuna studied the map. What is their current position? They control the eastern continent. Our remaining forces are defending the western cities. But the Vec are advancing. We expect them to breach our lines within 2 days. Do-hyun stepped forward and pointed at the map. Your soldiers are spread too thin. You are trying to defend everywhere at once. That is why you are losing. Novan looked offended. We are protecting innocent civilians. We cannot abandon them. You are not protecting anyone, Hana said. Her voice was soft but sharp. You are giving the Vec time to grow stronger. Every day you wait, they consume more resources. They multiply. They adapt. Then what do you suggest? Novan asked. Taeho spoke for the first time since entering the room. We go down there. Now. Tonight. We find their leaders and we kill them." The aliens stared at him in shock. "Their leaders?" Novan stammered. "The Vec are a swarm. They act as one. They have no individual leaders." "Every group has leaders," Taiho said. "Even insects. There are always ones who give orders, who control the movements. We find them. We remove them. The swarm falls apart. But how will you find them? Among millions of creatures?" Taiho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "That is what I do." That night, the three enforcers went down to the surface. They wore no armor. They carried no heavy weapons. Do-hyun had his fists and a simple metal rod. Hana had a small computer and a pistol. Taiho had his knife and nothing else. The coalition soldiers watched them leave with disbelief. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. They thought the humans were insane. They thought they were walking to their deaths. The enforcers landed in the middle of Vec territory. The creatures were everywhere. They looked like giant insects, with hard shells and sharp claws. They moved in waves, flowing across the land like water. Millions of them, endless. Do-hyun cracked his neck. This will be fun. They did not charge into battle. They did not stand and fight. They moved like shadows through the darkness. Taiho led them, finding paths between the Vec patrols. He could see patterns that no one else could see. He knew where the creatures would be before they got there. Hana monitored their communications. The Vec did not speak like humans. They used chemicals and sounds to share information. But information was still information. She learned to read it. She began to understand how they thought. "There," she said after an hour of moving. She pointed at a large structure in the distance. It looked like a hive, built from rock and dead plants. "That is their command center. The signals are strongest there." Do-hyun looked at the hive. It was surrounded by thousands of Vec. "Lot of bugs between us and that door. We do not need to fight them all," Taiho said. "We only need to get inside." They waited for the right moment. Then they moved. Do-hyun went first. He crashed through a group of Vec like a storm. His metal rod swung in wide arcs, crushing shells and breaking limbs. He did not try to kill them all. He just cleared a path. He was the wall. Nothing could stop him. Hana moved behind him, firing her pistol at any creature that got too close. She did not waste bullets. Every shot hit its target. Every target fell. Taiho moved like smoke. He slipped past the Vec without being seen. His knife flashed in the darkness, cutting throats and severing legs. By the time the creatures knew he was there, he was already gone. They reached the hive in minutes. The coalition soldiers had been fighting for days and lost thousands. The enforcers cut through in minutes with 3 people. Inside the hive, they found what they were looking for. A larger Vec, surrounded by smaller ones. It was different from the rest. Its shell was thicker. Its eyes were sharper. It gave orders. It controlled the swarm. Taiho looked at it and smiled. "Found you," he said. The battle was short. The leader died fast. And outside, the swarm began to fall apart. On the command ship, Novan watched the reports come in. He could not believe what he was seeing. The Vec were scattering. Their coordinated attacks stopped. Their advance halted. In one night, 3 humans had done what 40,000 coalition soldiers could not. He turned to Yuna, who stood beside him. "What are they?" he asked. His voice was a whisper. "What did you send us?" Yuna watched the screen. She watched her enforcers move through the chaos, calm and precise. "You asked for soldiers," she said. "We sent you something better." Yuna found Do-hyun first. He was in a training facility in Seoul, standing in the middle of a large room. Around him, 20 young recruits lay on the ground, groaning and holding their arms and legs. Do-hyun stood perfectly still. He was not even breathing hard. He was a big man, tall and wide, with shoulders like stone walls. His face was calm, almost bored. He wore simple black clothes and no shoes. His hands were wrapped in white tape, stained with sweat. "Again," he said to the recruits. His voice was deep and quiet. "Get up and try again." One of the recruits looked up at him. "Sir, we have been trying for 3 hours. You have knocked us down 200 times. 214, Do-hyun corrected. "And you will keep trying until you learn. In a real fight, the enemy will not give you breaks. The enemy will not feel sorry for you. Now get up." Yuna walked into the room. The recruits looked at her with hope in their eyes. Maybe she would save them. Maybe the training was over. "Do-hyun," Yuna said, "I need you." He turned to look at her. His eyes were dark and steady. "Commander, I am busy." "Not anymore," she said. "This is priority 1. Gather your things. We leave in 2 hours." Do-hyun looked at the recruits on the floor. Then he looked back at Yuna. "Where are we going?" "Off-planet. I will explain on the way." For a moment, Do-hyun said nothing. Then a small smile appeared on his face. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who had been given new prey. "Finally," he said, "something interesting." He walked past the recruits without looking at them. They watched him go with a mix of relief and fear. They did not know how lucky they were. In a real situation, Do-hyun would not have been so gentle. Yuna found Hana next. She was on Jeju Island, sitting alone on a beach. The sun was setting, and the water was orange and gold. Hana sat on the sand with her eyes closed. She looked peaceful. She looked almost normal, but Yuna knew better. Hana was never peaceful. Her mind was always working, always thinking, always planning. She could read people like books. She could find lies in the smallest movements. A twitch of the eye, a slight hesitation in speech, a change in breathing. Nothing escaped her notice. She was small and thin, with short black hair and a face that showed nothing. People often underestimated her because of her size. That was always a mistake. Hana had broken more criminals than any other interrogator in the division. She did not use violence. She did not need to. She used words. She used silence. She used fear. "I know you are there, Commander," Hana said without opening her eyes. "You walk too quietly. It makes you obvious." Yuna smiled and sat down next to her. "How are you feeling?" "Bored," Hana said. "The doctor said I needed rest after the last mission. But rest is not helping. My mind keeps moving. I keep thinking about the ones who got away." "There were no ones who got away," Yuna said. "You completed the mission perfectly." "Perfectly is not enough," Hana said. She opened her eyes and looked at the water. "I should have been faster. I should have seen the patterns sooner. 4 more people died because I was slow." Yuna understood. This was how enforcers thought. Normal people would celebrate a victory. Enforcers only saw their failures. They pushed themselves harder and harder, trying to be perfect, trying to save everyone. It was what made them so dangerous and so broken. "I have a new mission," Yuna said. "Off-planet. The Galactic Coalition needs our help." Hana turned to look at her. For the first time, there was something in her eyes. Interest, curiosity. "Aliens. I have always wanted to study them, to understand how they think, how they lie." "This is not a study mission," Yuna said. "There is a war. The Vex swarm is destroying their worlds. They asked for soldiers." "But you are not sending soldiers," Hana said. It was not a question. She had already figured it out. "No, I am sending you." And Doyeon. And Taiho. Hannah nodded slowly. 3 enforcers. Against an alien swarm. A small smile crossed her face. The aliens have no idea what they are asking for. No, Yuna agreed. They do not. Hannah stood up and brushed the sand from her clothes. When do we leave? Soon. But first we need to find Taiho. Hannah's smile faded. He's in the mountains. He always goes there when he wants to disappear. I know. That is why I need your help to find him. Finding Taiho was never easy. He was the best tracker in the division. He could follow any target across any terrain. But that also meant he knew how to hide better than anyone. When Taiho did not want to be found, he was invisible. They flew to the mountains in a small helicopter. The pilot dropped them off at the base of a large peak. Snow covered the ground. The wind was cold and sharp. Yuna and Hana began to walk up the mountain. He knows we are coming, Hana said after an hour of hiking. He probably knew before we even left Jeju. Yes, Yuna said. But he will let us find him. He always does. They walked for another 2 hours. The sun began to set. The temperature dropped. Yuna's fingers grew numb. But she kept walking. She knew Taiho was watching them, testing them, seeing if they were serious. Finally, they reached a small cave near the top of the mountain. Inside, a fire burned low. A man sat next to it, sharpening a knife. He was thin but strong, with long hair tied behind his head. His eyes were sharp like a hawk's. He did not look up when they entered. Commander, he said. Hannah, you look cold. You could have made this easier, Yuna said. You knew we were coming. Yes, Taiho said. But I wanted to see if it was important enough for you to climb all this way. It is, Yuna said. The most important mission we have ever had. Taiho finally looked up. He studied Yuna's face for a long moment. Then he looked at Hana. Something passed between them. An understanding. A shared history. The aliens, he said. I heard the signal too. I have been listening to their communications for weeks. Yuna was not surprised. Taiho always knew more than he should. Then, you know what we are dealing with. The Vek, Taiho said. A swarm species. They hunt in groups. They adapt to their prey. They are smart, but predictable. They always follow the same patterns. He put down his knife and stood up. I have been waiting for a real challenge. These Vek might be interesting. Is that a yes? Yuna asked. Taiho walked past her toward the cave entrance. He looked out at the dark mountains. The coalition expects soldiers. People who follow orders and stand in lines. They have no idea what they are getting. He turned back to face her. I will come, but I do not follow orders. I follow targets. Point me at the Vek, and I will end them. That is all I promise. Yuna nodded. That is all I need. They walked back down the mountain together. The 3 enforcers were assembled. Dohan, the wall that nothing could break. Hana, the mind that nothing could escape. Taiho, the hunter that nothing could outrun. Together, they had faced the worst criminals on Earth, drug lords, terrorists, madmen with weapons. Now they would face something new. An alien swarm that had destroyed 12 worlds. A threat that the entire Galactic Coalition could not stop. The aliens had asked for soldiers. They expected armies and weapons and ships. But Earth had something different. Something better. Earth had enforcers. And the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The message came at 3 in the morning. It traveled across empty space for 6 days before it reached the old satellite station above. Earth. The station was small and forgotten. Most people did not even know it existed. But the woman who worked there knew its purpose. Her name was Yuna, and she had been waiting for this message for a very long time. She sat alone in the control room. The lights were dim. The screens around her showed nothing but static and old data. Then one screen lit up with bright blue letters. Yuna leaned forward and read the words slowly. To the people of Earth, we are the Galactic Coalition. We represent 47 worlds. We face a great enemy. The Vex Swarm has destroyed 12 of our planets. Our soldiers are dying. We've heard stories of your kind. We have heard that humans are strong. We are asking for your help. Please send soldiers. Please save us. Yuna read the message 3 times. She did not smile. She did not look surprised. She simply stood up and walked to the communication panel. She pressed a button and spoke into the microphone. This is Station 7. I have received a priority signal. I need to speak with the council. There was silence for a moment. Then a voice answered. Commander Yuna, it is 4 in the morning. What is so important? The aliens have finally asked for help, Yuna said. They want soldiers. The voice on the other end went quiet. Yuna could hear breathing, slow and careful. Then the voice spoke again. Come down to Earth. We will meet in 6 hours. Yuna ended the call. She looked out the small window of the station. Below her, Earth floated in the darkness. It looked peaceful from up here. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. But Yuna knew the truth. Earth was not peaceful. It had never been peaceful. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had created weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. They had built machines that could kill without mercy. And when there were no more wars to fight, they turned their violence inward. That was when the enforcers were born. Yuna took a shuttle down to the surface. She landed in a city called Bizan. The streets were busy even at this early hour. People walked to work. Cars moved through the roads. Children ran to school. No one looked up at the sky. No one knew that everything was about to change. She walked into a tall gray building in the center of the city. There were no signs on the outside. No windows. Just a plain metal door. She pressed her hand against the scanner, and the door opened. Inside, 5 people sat around a long table. They were the council, the leaders of the enforcement division. They did not have titles or ranks. They did not wear uniforms. They looked like ordinary people. But Yuna knew they were anything but ordinary. Sit down, Yuna, said the oldest man at the table. His name was Junho. His hair was gray, and his face was covered with scars. He'd been an enforcer for 40 years before he retired. Tell us about this message. Yuna sat down and placed a small device on the table. She pressed a button, and the message played again. The blue letters floated in the air above the table. The council members read it in silence. When the message ended, a woman named Somi spoke first. The Vex Swarm. I have heard of them. They are insect-like creatures. They attack in large numbers. They do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. That is correct, Yuna said. Our satellites have been watching them for years. They move from planet to planet. They consume everything. Resources, life, technology. Then they move on. And these coalition aliens, said another man named Kaijun. What do we know about them? They are weak, Yuna said simply. They have technology. They have ships. But they do not know how to fight. Their soldiers stand in lines and shoot at the enemy. They follow rules. They have honor codes. They believe war should be fair. Junho laughed. It was a dry, cold sound. Fair. There is no such thing as a fair war. That is why they are losing, Yuna said. The Vec do not follow rules. They attack from all sides. They use fear and confusion. The coalition does not know how to handle it. Somi leaned back in her chair. So they want soldiers. Real soldiers. Fighters who can match the VEC. Yes, Yuna said. But I do not think we should send soldiers. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at her. Explain, Junho said. Yuna stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the city below. Soldiers are trained to fight wars. They follow orders. They hold positions. They defend territory. But the VEC are not fighting a war. They are hunting. They are predators. She turned back to face the council. If we send soldiers, they will die like the coalition forces. They will stand and fight and be overwhelmed. We need to send something different. We need to send hunters. Kaijin frowned. You mean enforcers? Yes, Yuna said. Enforcers do not fight wars. They end threats. They do not hold lines. They break them. They do not capture enemies. They eliminate them. Somi shook her head slowly. The enforcers are not soldiers. They are trained to deal with criminals, terrorists, hostage situations. This is different, is it? Yuna asked. The VEC attack without warning. They use terror. They take entire populations as hostages before consuming them. This is exactly what enforcers are trained for. Junho was silent for a long moment. He looked at the other council members. Then he looked back at Yuna. Who would you send? Yuna had already prepared her answer. I want 3 people. The best we have. Do-hyun from the riot control unit. Hannah from interrogation and intelligence. Taiho from hostage rescue. Together, they have handled every major crisis on Earth for the last decade. 3 people, Kaijin said. Against an entire swarm? 3 enforcers, Yuna corrected. That is more than enough. Junho stood up slowly. He walked to the window and stood next to Yuna. He looked out at the city for a long time. Then he spoke. The coalition asked for soldiers. They expect armies, formations, flags, and uniforms. They have no idea what they are asking for. He turned to face the council. Send the enforcers. Let the galaxy learn what Earth really creates. Yuna nodded. She already knew where to find them. Do-hyun was in Seoul, training new recruits. Hannah was in Jeju, recovering from her last mission. Taiho was somewhere in the mountains, alone as always. She would bring them together. She would explain the mission. And then she would take them to the stars. The aliens wanted soldiers. But Earth had something better. Earth had enforcers. And soon, the VEC would learn what that meant.